Most of us are not exposed to these images and sounds every day. However, there are some Americans who are. I'm Meshad, and this is After the Showdown.
From my perspective, no one is ever ready for war, but if it takes place, you have to make that adjustment.
Every day I went out there and I was like, I hope the sons of bitches come out to fight today, because I feel froggy, because I feel like today's a good day to send them, to go meet Allah and find out there isn't 70 virgins waiting for them, yeah.
So Eric, you and Freddie talked about how the events of 9/11 had an impact on your feelings toward the enemy. Eric, you in Afghanistan, and Freddie, you in Iraq.
Without a doubt, my guys are like, you bastards hit us, now we're here to take you apart.
Revenge is definitely a factor, definitely.
We wanted Osama's head.
When 9/11 happened, hell yeah, that pissed me off. I mean, shit, you got a 16-year-old, American here whose parents came to this country for a better life, grew up thinking about, okay, this country's here because of the veteran. And right then and there, I wanted to get done with school because I was still in high school. I wanted to get done with school, enlist, and go to combat.
Now, when you say, yeah, you were angry you angry at a group of people? Or were you simply angry that this could happen? How can this happen to us, knowing who we are, being United States?
No, I wasn't mad at anybody in particular. I was just going, there are people who hate us enough to come here to hurt us.
What these rap groups are is a way for veterans, combat veterans specifically, to communicate and share their stories in a setting that's comfortable to them, meaning they don't have to explain graphic details, or they don't have to feel uncomfortable explaining graphic details of combat in a setting like this.
Yeah, I chose to want to, fit in with the crowd, and I wanted to get into fights, and, hey, let's have a brawl at a party. Well, let's get into the fight at the party. I remember coming home with blood vessels busted in my eye, kicked to the side of the head where my freaking skull looked uneven, looked like a puzzle. So yeah, you could say I had a pretty violent childhood.
All that violence and hate, did you want to express it upon entering into the military, knowing that it was a potential opportunity to go to war? Were you somewhat prepared, semi-prepared, just in case something click off, and then you would say, oh yeah, now I got the chance to do this because I feel all this inside.
This violence that I was aware of, that I knew I had in me, and plus to add it on with that I was trained, so now I have self-control over it. That's the big difference.
But when you go into the military, you become trained. They instill that discipline into you, so your mind starts maturing more and starts developing more into the mindset of a soldier.
It seem like you was a loose cannon, like you were out of control, because I know that it's very structured and organized. Right.
So you are signing a blank check. You are signing a blank check in the amount of your life when you go over there. Nowadays, people enlist. It's like you're enlisting in a time of war. I'm gonna enlist. Your president. We might withdraw our troops. Bottom line is the troops are there right now. A lot of people don't understand that, and I realize that now. They don't understand that they're making a check out to the United States government saying, hey, look, in the amount of my life. If you need it, cash it in, but I'm on my way over there. A lot of people don't understand that.
How can the public not understand that?
Hey, you don't need this from me, but for what it's worth, I salute you guys. You enlisted. You were a volunteer army. You went over there. You made a commitment, to yourselves, to the country, to the guys next to you, and you did the dirty work for the rest of us. Things in Vietnam were a little different. You guys seem better trained. You guys. I salute you.
What you've just seen is a combat vet therapy group. The mediator opened the session up where you get to hear what these men are dealing with, both in combat and particularly returning home. The transition process is the thing that really stands out. Regardless of how well these men think they're doing now, there are things that they are processing, things that they are trying to let go, things that they are trying to move beyond. They're now civilians. They are now reintegrating into society, and a lot of the things that they use to survive and to exercise combat are not necessary in most cases back as a civilian. It's very important that these men continue, particularly the first few years back in these group sessions, in order for them to process, think, and move on with their lives.
Once you've talked with combat veterans, you begin to hear about things many of us have never considered. I spoke with a gentleman named Rick Seaman, who's the co-founder of the Veterans Network. Rick was a combat infantryman in Vietnam in 1968 and 69.
A young man in a combat zone has one primary job, one mission, and that is to kill the enemy. But there's no real rules or regulations or guidelines that say how violently he should do that, or how violently he should not do that. So here he is, he's there for months and months and months committing violent acts. And then all of a sudden, they say, you're done. You're out of the military. You're going home. No more. Turn it off. Stop.
You know, when your buddy goes down, I mean, that's the only thing that you want to think about is, you know, laying waste to, I mean, whoever's around there. I mean, the ID goes off, you know, I mean, the guys are making way for the Americans, the ID goes off, an American gets killed, you know. I mean, it's all these ROEs and stuff like that, but that's the first thing you want to do, you know, is return fire, you know, where the contact was made. You know, the ID blows up to the left side, you start laying waste out there, you know. There's people looking, watching you guys get blown up. I mean, they must have seen something, you know. They know where it came from. They know who planted it there. And I'm pretty sure they know who the trigger man was.
Exactly. You move into somebody's neighborhood, your neighbors know, hey, that guy is new. Hey, that guy. When a drug dealer moves into your neighborhood nowadays, you know it. You know? So when a fucking terrorist, when a guy that wants to blow people up moves into your neighborhood, you don't say, oh, look, he goes to the mosque at the same time I do. No. You can tell. You know, but fucking, hey, I want to close my eyes to this. Or, you know, fuck that. That makes you just as guilty.
I'm pretty sure you seen somebody that was alongside you got shot, blown up by the enemy.
Right.
Did you still have control then? Did you lose control? Or did you just snap and say, no, we about to go kill everybody, man. My boy just got whacked. I mean, he IED blew him up. Roadside bomb, and all of a sudden, you snap. I'm going to go get everybody now. Kids, women, whoever.
Fuck that. Okay, you don't want to kill everybody, round everybody up. Every fucking swinging dick will be fucking marched with their hands behind their back to our fucking compound so we can question you. Not fucking hold your fire. Does anybody see the guy that threw it? Of course not.
And you know what, Freddie? You don't always have to explain to people what went on over there. You don't always have to explain to them to validate what you did over there.
The whole thing is that at a moment like that, you know, you don't want your anger to consume you and think, okay, now I just want to go blast some people. I don't care if it's women, children, or men, but the sad part about it is sometimes they do get caught in the crossfire when you know, shit hits the fan like that.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, your main mission is for you to be safe and your guys to be safe.
St. John Wayne, the fantasy that America is under the influence with. I mean, they drinking and using drugs. They don't know half of what's going on, man. I mean, you ask the average American, how long has the war been going on? They can't tell you that. They can't say that.
Well, yeah,
know.
war's not entertainment. You know, it's not Xbox. It's not a game. You know, I mean, it shouldn't be easy and all this bullshit. You know, I mean, I really resent. I don't want to live in an Xbox. You know, this stuff means nothing to me, and I think it makes things too easy for a lot of people because they get a distance. They go, oh, there are no consequences here. There are consequences. There are consequences to what you do, and there are consequences to what you don't do. You know, and it's important.
I chuckled because the civilian population does not understand. And when they come out of school and they say, wow, it'll be just like Call of Duty. You know, no, pal, it won't be, because those bullets are flying at you. You know, your character doesn't get up and start over again with a new clip. You know, or whatever, whatever in those games. That is why the younger generation, meaning you guys are the younger generation. Hell, what, you're 23, 24? But imagine all of these games and everything that's going on right now, and these kids are just going, you know what, I'm just going to go over there, and this is what's going to happen. And then you say, oh, come on. Oh, shit, he's not getting up. Well, no, he's not getting up. That's what happens.
Shad, you've been working with combat-related psychology since the Vietnam War, basically since before the acronym PTSD was even around. Could you explain what exactly combat stress is?
Well, combat stress basically was called shell shock. It came out of World War II, actually World War I also. They had different names for it. But it is actually a normal response to an abnormal condition, which is near-death experience. It's a catastrophic event that you witness or participate in, and you survive. And the symptoms that follow are symptoms from a traumatic event. And this is what that is.
Why is it then that some combat veterans are able to come home and move on while others have problems?
Well, that's $1 million question that has been probably in 1,000 research studies as to why some people handle trauma better than others. We know in the classic study that was completed in 1990 through the Vietnam vet experience that 60% of those experiencing near-death experiences come back and eventually adjust normally, whereas 40% have severe readjustment problems, and about 20% of those actually have acute or chronic PTSD.
Yeah, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. You know, I was in City College, and I was taking sociology. You know, basically it's a great way to meet girls, and you know, I ran out of money. I had to drop out. 30 days later, I'm in the Army. And, you know, my DI hands me this gun, and he says, you know, we're going to teach you how to take a man apart, you know, just going to split him up the middle. It'll take a man apart real good. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But 6 months earlier, you know, I was being taught in college how to resolve conflict, you know, and, you know, communicate through dialogue. Fucking wow.
As much as the words veterans with PTSD gets thrown around, I think Americans need to know more about the actual symptoms and what people like yourself are seeing and working with.
The biggest one, the one that I deal with mostly, is rage and anger. Things set these individuals off, and they go off the charts. And things like, you know, sleeping disorders. They can't sleep. They have flashbacks. They'll be sitting in a room and either just drift into almost like watching a movie, which is the movie happens to be probably the incident where the near-death experience took place, or multiple near-death experiences. Intrusive thoughts. You could just be sitting here and I could be looking at you and all of a sudden be reminded of someone or some incident at some time that creates that biological reaction of flight or fight, which goes on in their minds. And then depression. just being down. Avoidance is a big one. Isolation, staying away from people, trying to stay away from everything that keeps you from being set off. So you become more and more seclusive.
Okay, so can you help them set up a defense system?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's basically what counseling is. I mean, when I'm working with an individual, depending on what his reaction, if it's anger, you definitely have to set things up, because usually they end up in the criminal system, the criminal justice system. But avoidance and isolation, you find places where the individual can exercise the opposite. If it's avoidance, not to avoid the issue. When it comes up, what do you do? 1, 2, 3, 4. You actually have them or help them write out a list of things. So when the red flag goes up, then they automatically know. If, for example, if it's a sleeping disorder, they need to know what they do when they are when their sleep patterns are disruptive. What do they do when they get up? You know, they watch TV, do they turn on the news, do they take a sleeping pill? These are the things that we go over, and we set up a program that actually works. And it's a hit and miss thing, particularly in sleeping disorders that we're finding are extremely common with these individuals. The anger and the irritability issues, we have to once again go, what upsets you? You know, is it someone talking about the war? Is it someone wanting to take you to a war movie? Is it someone that is loud? Is it someone that likes guns? Everybody has something that crosses that barrier in the brain that sets off that part which creates the symptom. And we have to, through counseling, work through that. And then 1 through 5 or 10 or whatever, set up a backup security system for them.
If combat veterans can learn to manage those coping skills on their own, is that good?
Absolutely. It's a good habit. You know, we want them to continue, we want them to work on it, because usually when we get through one area, we can work on another symptom. We try to take the ones that put their lives, particularly as a civilian, most in jeopardy. And anger, for example, is one that we really try to deal with immediately. We may not be able to get to the sleeping disorder or some of the nightmares and flashbacks, but that's what ongoing counseling does.
And if the combat veteran is managing his or her own coping tools, is he or she at risk for creating their own coping tools that may not work?
Absolutely. That's usually what happens, particularly with our younger veterans, is that they come back and the first thing, it's either alcohol or drugs, self-medication we call it, but basically it's excessive drinking and drugs to numb. It's a numbing procedure, so when these things come up, and what happens is, unfortunately, they can become very addictive. Rather than testing the waters and staying, say, non-inebriated, he stays inebriated or she stays inebriated most of the time, and then that's when the trouble starts. It's temporary, and it's only regulated by them, which is really no regulation at all, and that's when this trouble starts. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
But I started to notice, there were a couple of incidents in particular that I noticed. I'm not an emotional guy, and there were some moments where I really was kind of emotional, and I started drinking quite heavily, and rage, anger issues really started to present themselves. My relationship with my wife really degraded to a point where in a matter of weeks it was, we're going to separate. I had really it was a bad turn for me. Where my anger stems from is from the way in which the media presents the sacrifices that we have made, and the way they twist those sacrifices into something meaningless, into a war that cannot be won, or into a war that should never have been fought in the first place. The last thing I need to hear is how my good friends have lost limbs and lives for something that was never a just cause in the first place. I was fortunate. I'm one of the fortunate few, because I was being pushed by my wife in particular to go get help, and I recognize if there's this many people that are looking at me kind of cross-eyed, that I need something was wrong.
There's a number of forms you can go for readjustment and psychological counseling, like the VA vet centers, who have counselors who specialize in a wide range of counseling areas, from family counseling and reintegration to PTSD and other psychological disorders. There are also a number of groups around the country who who give free counseling for veterans. Specifically, there's a group called Give an Hour, which is a number of licensed counselors across the country who volunteer their time. Okay. Or you can call the National Veterans Foundation, which is more of a peer-to-peer counseling, where peer-to-peer counseling is veterans talking to other veterans. The National Suicide Hotline, they want you to press 1 for English, they want you to press 1 for a veteran. No, by that time, I'm done. Their intentions for calling are because they're in a situation right now where that phone is their last hope.
I had this teacher in high school, Mrs. Jones. She always talking shit, saying I was too rowdy, saying I was a knucklehead, saying I wouldn't live past 22. All that, bullshit that she'd always talk. Well, not too long ago, coming back from my third tour, I ran into her and let her know, hey, Mrs. Jones, remember me? She was all, thank you for serving, wanted to hold my hand, telling me that I'm doing such a great job and this and that.
Hey, you know what, Freddie, man? Mrs. Jones didn't have a freaking clue as to what you were going through over there, man.
You know what I said to Mrs. Jones, Eric? I said, Mrs. Jones, I'm glad I was over there protecting you.
Vietnam, 40 years ago. Why'd you come in today?
Vietnam's the gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. I lost my wife recently, and she helped me deal. I had somebody. I came back and she understood, and we built a life together. And when I lost her, stuff started coming back, and I see the footage, you guys, and I remember, and there are things I don't want to remember, and so I needed some people who understood. That's why I'm here.
And I know it's hard to let go of that rage. It's very controlling. And every one of us have felt it in one way or another.
My best friend was killed right in front of me. I mean, I was still so pissed off about that. I can't get that out of my head. And the rage is still there.
There's something comforting about the rage.
It was comforting. Oh, I can.
I don't want to let go of the rage.
I know.
To be honest with you, I don't want to let go of it.
No.
Because it makes me feel warm and it makes me feel like I got a purpose.
That's like having that M50. That feels great. It's excitement, but it's false.
My platoon commander, he was actually killed over there. Never took in the fact that we might actually kill somebody. This isn't a fantasy. This isn't a dream. I'm not gonna wake up tomorrow and
I just
it's gonna
had
be gone.
difficulty feeling much of anything other than anger. It was like I was real in touch and still in touch, with anger, rage. I'm comfortable. I'm very comfortable being angry.
I'm like Sean, I get pissed off at anything.
What sets you off? Different things.
There's a lot of things that set me off.
No, go first.
I don't think I could point to like one specific thing that sets me off.
Well, let's start at the top and work your way in.
The number one thing, the thing I'm most passionate about, the media. Absolutely 100% the news. They mislead, they twist the truth as much as is humanly possible to portray the sacrifices that these guys make, to turn that into something else. That is my chief complaint.
People that don't pay attention to what's going on, that rages me right there.
They don't show what's real.
Hey, he turns on the news and he says 3 more U.S. personnel were killed in Iraq. I don't dispute what I did in Iraq. I killed people in Iraq. I'm not going to dispute that. If you go to war, that your people die when you go to war.
All those guys are going to be out eventually, and then what? They're not troops anymore. They're not soldiers anymore. So who's supporting them? Nobody is. All that stuff disappears as soon as you get out.
I would say it's what I perceive to be a complete and total disconnect between those of us who have served in a combat zone versus everyone else, basically.
I'm up to 38 people that I know, we're friends with that have since passed away.
It's as real as life can be. I mean, I really do believe that. I mean, death is about, being around all that death and that destruction, responsible for it even, is about as real as life can be. And that's the thing I struggle with.
His job is to make sure he comes home alive and tells the story. His job is to come home and take care of his family.
In Najaf, I got hit by shrapnel. I had a stroke from the concussion, and I came back home.
As much as I think that our families and our friends and spouses, whatever, know that we've been through something and that it's got to have changed us because of the intensity of the experience, they still expect you to still kind of be like, the same guy.
When I came home, I couldn't even talk to someone over the phone. Didn't smile, felt a feeling in my face and a feeling in my gut, that feeling that you get right here.
Didn't really know what to do, what to say. There's a lot of things going on, inside my head. I had a lot of emotion, and I'm trying not to be too overloaded with.
My concern, obviously, is the emotions and how that affects your life, and you've got a long life in front of you. Going off as young men and getting that uniform and discipline and fighting for what we think is righteousness, and we come back and we feel violated because we haven't had righteousness done to us, of all people. It's the biggest contradiction. It creates more nightmares down the road as you get older than actually what happened in combat. We also know physically that rage destroys the body. The thing that I'm here forever for you guys is the fact that emotionally we got to cross over. And first thing that I will do and spend the rest of my professional life is to get rid of the rage out of you. Well, somehow you've got to make peace inside. What I see is you're still fighting the world and the way it is. And we can change it, but it won't change with you living in rage, because it will crush you in the future. It will eventually alienate you from everything here. I've been around for 35, but the foundation's been here 20, and this is your house.
We go over there as professionals. You do what you gotta do. You come back, you come home, you deal with the nightmares, the flashbacks. It's not pretty. If I was 20 years old and we got attacked again, I'd be right back in it.
We all know that when you come back, we might have problems. PTSD is a son of a bitch. That's the price we pay for freedom.